Committee and has led key transportation studies for us over the years related to transportation and land use. We're really going to miss Anna. She's one of the professionals I've worked the longest with throughout my career. I'm going to be sad to see her go as she takes a break and looks ahead towards the next chapter of her career. But I just wanted to ask you all to join us in thanking her for her 9+ years of service to GNRC and the Nashville area NPO, and also give Anna an opportunity to show her video and come on and say a few words about what her experience here has meant working with each of you.
Hi, everybody. I'm on Daniel's computer, so I know it says Daniel's name under my face, but I'm really happy to get the opportunity to bid you all a very fond farewell. I hate that we're doing this workshop virtually. I wish we were all together in person so that I could actually say an in-person goodbye to everyone, but I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for being such amazing partners and for being such amazing colleagues to work with over all these years. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to get to take some time and be more present for my family, but I sure am going to miss this community of people and the work that we do. And I sincerely hope that maybe I will return to it someday. So just wanted to say goodbye to you all. Thank you. I appreciate each of you. You're wonderful, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, Anna. And seeing the chat and the comments there makes me feel really proud of everything you've done for us. We will be introducing soon the new person who will be heading up our transportation improvement program, as well as some additional information about a project delivery position that we're going to be hiring for in the near future to help out with things that we talk about month to month with the Transportation Coordinating Committee. But again, just join me in thanking Anna for her service. And until we make any further announcements, the best way to get a hold of us on TIP-related matters is at that email address that Daniel showed on the prior screen, which is tip@gnrc.org. That's an email address that will ensure team coverage of all your TIP-related inquiries and requests. So again, tip@gnrc.org is really the most important email address for you to remember moving forward. So Daniel, with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Michael. I just wanted to add on to what you were saying. We just really appreciated having Anna here all of these years. I know that her and both her and Sean have just made GNRC a place worth working, and I think that we'll be able to continue their excellence going forward. So again, thank you, Anna, so much, and thanks for teaching me everything you know for the past 4 years. All right, I'll keep this going. So you all have heard about this update before, but as an NPO, we are required to, every decennial census cycle, we're required to go through an update of the federal aid urban boundary. Max Baker gave you a presentation a few meetings ago on what that process looks like. And just as a reminder, you can go to gnrc.org/maps/federal aid to review the current draft federal aid urban boundary. We've received 2 boundary adjustments so far from both Metro Nashville and the city of Gallatin. Those affect Davidson County and Sumner counties. But if anybody has any additional boundary adjustments, just please reach out to us, reach out to Max, and we'll get those in the process. So as a reminder, this is our timeline on the right. So we've been going through coordination process with you all and other agencies, and then in August we'll be sending the draft to TDOT for review, and then the plan is for TDOT to submit that to Federal Highway for approval in December. I'll pause for any questions on that. All right. So lastly, some of you may remember with the most recent federal transportation legislation, Infrastructure and Jobs Act, we receive a new carbon reduction fund program. It's a formula program suballocated to our urbanized areas. It's very similar in eligibility to the CMAQ program. So in the Nashville-Davidson urbanized area, receive almost 14 million over the course of the TIP, and then 1.9 million for the Murfreesboro urbanized area. In terms of eligibility, again, similar to CMAQ, ITS projects, electrification upgrades, any other public transit related projects, bike ped projects, lighting and traffic signal upgrades. So we'll be working both with you and with the TPB to figure out a process for prioritization. Our proposed prioritization is going to focus on existing TIP projects where CMAQ, TAP, and multimodal access funds are not enough to cover costs for implementation. I know that many of you have received cost overruns when you've gone to bid for construction recently, and so we're going to try our best to help use this program to cover some of those cost overruns for those projects. We'll be presenting that at our next policy board meeting next week with a process and timeline for the Transportation Policy Board, and we'll make sure to get that to you as well. Any questions on that?
I have one.
Sure, go ahead, Bill. Yep.
Yeah. It says existing TIP projects. Could this help out because of the rate of inflation and what we've seen in the indexing of construction projects? Could this also apply to future TIP projects that are CMAQ, TAP, or MMAG funds?
Yeah,
I'm kind
I
of
think
looking at this as a supplement to our traditional funding sources here, and I was just wondering if there's an opportunity to no pun intended, tap into these funds to to cover cost that we had not projected, or maybe that the project may be a little bit more expensive than we thought.
Thanks, Bill. I think because there's so many projects already in the TIP that are experiencing cost overruns, I think we might, through this process, address many of those with this funding program and actually use a lot of that funding. So I think it's a possibility, but we'll tackle that issue when that arises, as we expect the inflationary pressures and other contributing factors to cost overruns that will probably continue to happen.
Hey, Daniel, this is Michael. Will you remind us the timelines associated with this funding in terms of any obligation deadlines or expenditure deadlines that might be associated with this that might be different than traditional funds?
I believe it's similar to the CMAQ obligation deadlines, and I think it's every 4 years.
Hey, Daniel, Jim Kerr, City of Murfreesboro. The numbers that are being represented, that's a 4-year allocation, and we're only into year 2. Is that correct?
That's correct. Any other questions on that? All right, well, thank you, everyone. That concludes our informational updates for this meeting. Michael, I think you wanted to take a break and then reconvene at 11 with the Replica folks.
I think I just checked in with Max and they're ready to go. And looking
Okay.
at the list of participants, I think we've gotten most of the folks that we're expecting. We had told a few folks that we would get started at 11 with the orientation, but I see them online now, so I'm comfortable with going ahead and moving forward.
I don't think so. I just figured we could send it to Google for proof.
All right. I will go ahead and kick it over to Max at Replica. We appreciate them making time to be here. I think all of you will really appreciate the information they have to share. And without further ado, I will kick it over to Max.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Before I get started, Max Baker, I just wanted to thank you for all of your help in coordinating today's session. Not sure if there's any opening remarks you'd like to offer, otherwise I can jump right into it.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, really excited to get this in front of the TCC. It's what we used a substantial amount of money to purchase using the CRISA funds. And basically it's a mobility data platform that offers modeled data that provides very rich insight into the mobility patterns across the region and really the United States. And it is an updated base year of a couple times a year, as well as observations weekly, monthly, and annually for counts, ODs, spending, etc. So we're really excited about it, and we're going to have Max Sokol, who is our customer engagement lead for GNRC, to kind of show you around where everything is within the platform and what it can do. You can refer to him as the Max Replica. He's just as good as the original, but he's in good hands. So he'll also be fielding any questions. Feel free to reach out and email him. I think he'll follow up with an email blast this afternoon, reaching out to set up a conversation with him if you want to learn more. And I encourage you to send any questions that you might have into the chat, and we will try and get them answered as soon as we can. Max, over to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Max, can you just confirm you can see my screen?
I can. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. So again, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for spending some of your TCC meeting with us today. In the interest of time, we're not going to cover this slide in detail, other than to note that your access to Replica data can really help to unlock new possibilities for a range of analyses. The purpose of this slide is to get you brainstorming about how you can incorporate Replica data into your projects and workflows. To begin, again, I'd like to thank GNRC for extending the invitation to the member jurisdictions for today's session. Our goal is to ensure that the member jurisdictions receive the most value from Replica, and the main takeaway from today's session is that Replica data can help users immediately. In advance of today's session, GNRC shared a one-pager that provided some background about Replica and how you can sign up. As a reminder, to create an account, you can simply go to studio.replicahq.com and sign up using your work email address. I'll put that link in the chat right now, just so you have it. If you've not already created an account, now would be a great time to do so. In today's session, we're going to start by broadly covering Replica's background, data sources, and ways to access Replica data. And then we'll spend the majority of the time in the online app. This slide deck will be shared with you following today's session, and it includes links to a number of resources that we won't have time to walk through in detail during the presentation. Given the limited time that we have together, I'll present the slides fairly quickly so we can get to the platform demo as soon as possible. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We'll begin with an overview of Replica. We're a company that provides data about the built environment and the ways people interact with it. Our mission is to organize that information and make it accessible, valuable, and actionable. We were founded by a planner based in Kansas City and a data scientist from UC Berkeley, and we spun out of Google Sidewalk Labs in August of 2019. We know that making complex decisions about the built environment involves confronting challenges that don't have simple solutions. Too often, you're expected to make important decisions with data that's out of date, incomplete, or sometimes both. And afterward, you don't have the information you need to measure impact. Replica exists to change that. Replica offers both a breadth and depth of data that can enhance existing workflows within your agencies today. With our seasonal mobility data, we offer depth, detailed disaggregate trip tables for an average weekday and average weekend day over a 13-week modeling season for a selected region. Each row of data reflects an individual trip with columns that include characteristics about the trip, like mode and purpose, but also characteristics about the trip takers, like household income and race and ethnicity. We also offer a breadth of data. In addition to mobility data, Replica provides demographic data, economic activity data, and as shown on the next slide, data about the built environment, such as land use. Replica also has recently made standalone data sets available, including AADT, annual speeds data, turning movement counts, and parking. GNRC's agreement includes access to these data sets, so users can leverage these today from our platform. To create our models, we leverage a diverse set of source data. The first category of data is mobile location data. This includes location-based services, or LBS data, vehicle in-dash GPS data, and point of interest data. The second category is consumer and resident data. Demographic data from private and public sources, including the American Community Survey, provides the basis for determining where people live and work and the characteristics of the population. The third category is built environment data. This includes OpenStreetMap, a national GTFS layer for transit feeds. Hello? I'll go ahead and keep going.
No, you have been.
Sounds like somebody might be off mute. Okay.
Sorry, Max,
sorry.
I'll mute them.
Okay, sorry about that. So the built environment data includes OpenStreetMap, a national GTFS layer for transit feeds, as well as proprietary data sources that offer land use and parking data. The fourth category is economic activity data. This includes a combination of publicly available data, such as census data and Bureau of Economic Analysis data, as well as vendor data, such as merchant and cardholder transaction data, that we use as inputs to our weekly economic model. The fifth category is observed ground truth data. This is used to calibrate and improve the overall accuracy of Replica outputs. The types of ground truth collected by Replica include auto and freight volumes and transit ridership. Our multi-step methodology uses those data sources as inputs to deliver granular data outputs that match behavior in aggregate, but don't surface the actual movements or compromise the privacy of any one individual. Our methodology involves developing a synthetic population, training 3 types of travel behavior models, running simulations of the behavior models applied to the synthetic population, and finally calibrating the outputs against observed ground truth to improve quality. If you're interested in more information, you can access our methodology at documentation.replicahq.com. We work closely with state and local government entities and architectural, engineering, and consultant firms across the country, and we understand that capacity varies across agencies, departments, and firms. For individuals not familiar working with large amounts of data, you can access our platform to query and visualize the tabular outputs. Our platform allows users to apply filters, review summaries, and export data as a CSV, GeoJSON, or shapefile. All customers can create accounts today at studio.replicahq.com, as I mentioned before. We also offer direct database access via Google's BigQuery, which is a serverless data warehouse that enables analysis over large amounts of data. Users that have the appropriate skill sets can read, execute SQL queries, or download data directly from the data tables. You can request access to BigQuery by filling out a simple form. The links to access the form and a couple of helpful resources to get you started will be included in the slide deck that we'll share with you following today's session. We offer a variety of resources to help our customers, including our online help center, in-app chat, and product tours. We also host bi-weekly onboarding and Q&A sessions. We send out a weekly newsletter, and we host monthly webinars that showcase how our customers are integrating Replica data into their workflows. Finally, you have the ability to schedule one-on-one working sessions with myself, as well as members of our client services team, such as one of our solutions architects, John Buckholes, who is on as well and will help to address any questions that might come up during today's session. To better support the work you do, we want to make sure that your consultants have access to Replica data as well to leverage alongside you. We work with a network of over 75 architectural, engineering, and consulting firms. Any consultants that you're working with who are part of these organizations can access Replica immediately by signing up at studio.replicahq.com using their work email address. And if your consultant is not a Replica partner, there's a brief form that you can fill out to request temporary access. So without further ado, let's jump into the Replica platform for an overview demo. I just wanted to note that the slide deck that we'll share includes a few additional slides with illustrative use cases to help you brainstorm ways to integrate Replica data into your work. During today's session, and in the interest of time, we'll focus on the platform demo to showcase the in-app functionality. Oops. So what I'm going to do is start from the Replica homepage. After you create your account at studio.replicahq.com, you'll be brought to this homepage. I wanted to just point out a few features of the homepage and the Replica platform overall. On the top right side of the platform, you'll see a question mark icon that provides direct access to our help center and a number of related resources, including our FAQs, how-to documentation, methodology, and more. On the bottom right side of the platform is our interactive chat, which is monitored in real time by members of our team, and you generally get a response within a couple of hours, if not sooner. This also provides links to a number of our other resources as well. On the left side of the screen is the main menu bar, where you can access your studies, which come from our Places product, which is our seasonal product. Your dashboards, which come from our Trends product, which provides weekly updated data. If you wanted to upload a custom geography, which enables you to look at non-census based geographies. So let's say you have a neighborhood that's of interest to you, or a buffer around a corridor, or a buffer around a transit station. You can upload a shapefile or GeoJSON to create what we call a custom geography. And if you're interested in doing so, there are some simple instructions for the parameters that need to be applied when you submit your file. If you go to reference downloads, you can download the geographic data that underpins our model, including census geographies, network links, or the roadway network, as well as the transit routes and stops. You can download land use data, either by land area or building area, after specifying what your geography is of interest. We also offer parcel level land use, if that's of interest to you, through our backend data tables. And then we also offer both on-street and off-street parking data, depending on that. Coverage varies across the region. We generally have better coverage in more densely populated areas, but you can select your geography to see what parking data we have available. If you go to data downloads on the left side, you'll be brought to this screen, where you can download weekly mobility data, including origin and destination data and residential vehicle miles traveled data. You can download weekly consumer spending data, either by merchant location or home location, and I'll talk in more detail about that when I demo the Trends platform. You can also download traffic data, and again, all this data comes with GNRC subscription, so you should have access to AADT, speed data, and turning movement counts if that's of interest to you. Finally, there's a tab to learn more about our newest product called Scenario, which enables you to forecast future travel patterns based on changes to population and employment estimates. So now what I'd like to do is demo our weekly data set trends and then our seasonal data set places. We'll spend most of our time in places, which is our disaggregate seasonal model. But let's start with a trends dashboard. So we'll go ahead and click New Dashboard. First thing you'll want to do is specify your geography type. We have a range of census-based geographies that are available, ranging from the state level all the way down to the tract scale, and you can select multiple geographies, so you're not limited to one, and you have also nationwide access, so you're not limited to the GNRC region. Additionally, if you've uploaded any custom geographies, they would be listed below under My Geographies, or organizational geographies, so that you can see what custom geographies are available to you. For this exercise, why don't we go ahead and look at Sumner County within the GNRC region. So I'll click Counties. You'll see the map updates to show counties across the country. There is a search bar at the top of the screen, so I can search for Sumner County, Tennessee. The map will dynamically update. I'll click on Sumner County. You'll see that it's now listed on the left side of the screen, and I'll click Create Dashboard. So once the dashboard loads, you'll see that at the top of the screen is a summary map and some high-level metrics. You have the ability to edit your dashboard on the top of the screen, either the name of your dashboard or the geography that you've selected. If you want to download data specifically for this geography, you can go ahead and click Download Data right here. I want to draw your attention to the 3 tabs that are listed here. One tab for mobility data, one tab for spend data, and one tab for land use data. We'll start with mobility data. You'll see that the most recently updated data was on June 10th of this year, and we update this data weekly. Generally on Thursdays, if you have a Replica account, you'll receive an email called our Mobility Roundup newsletter, where we'll announce the updated data. Next thing you'll want to do is specify your date range of interest. Again, we offer weekly data all the way back to the beginning of 2019 in our Trends product. It defaults to showing the previous 6 months. You can select 1 year ago, 2 years ago, or a custom start week or month. And for this exercise, we'll look at since the beginning of 2019. I'm not going to show all of these modules in detail in the interest of time, and I'd like to focus primarily on our Places product. But what I wanted to show is that there are different modules with different mobility metrics, including total trips, mode split, and residential vehicle miles traveled. And if you hover over the charts, you'll see that they are dynamic in that they provide data as you hover over them. You can also, if you hover over the right side of the map of the charts, you can toggle between showing totals or change since the baseline. You can also download this data either as a CSV for out-of-app analysis or as an image of the chart for inclusions in presentations. If you continue scrolling down, you'll see interactive maps showing the change and the distribution of these metrics. And you can toggle between different metrics that are of interest to you, including origins and destinations and trips versus trips per square mile. Next, the Spend tab. This provides economic activity data, also updated weekly across a number of categories. Once again, the first thing you'll want to do is toggle to define your date range of interest. You'll see that there's an option to show either spend by merchant location or spend by home location. If you hover over this information icon, you'll see that spend by merchant location corresponds to spending at physical brick and mortar locations within your study area, in this instance, Sumner County, or you can select spend by home location, which means spending by residents of your study area. You'll also see that when you select spend by home location, there's a distinction between in-person spending and online spending for a number of categories, including restaurants and bars, grocery stores, and retail. And we offer a number of additional categories as well. If you continue scrolling down, you'll see interactive maps, similar to the mobility tab, where you can see the change and the distribution of these spend metrics. Finally, if you're interested in land use data, you can click the land use tab. This is updated seasonally. You can look at either land area or building area. One of the important distinctions between these is that land area includes a category for mixed use parcels, whereas building area divides those uses into their individual use categories. There's a histogram that shows the breakdown of different land use categories within your study area, as well as the number of dwelling units by category, distinguishing between single family, multifamily, and mixed use. And then if you scroll down, you can see if you hover over individual census tracts, you can see the breakdown of different land uses within individual tracts. And again, we do offer parcel level land use if that's of interest to you as well through our backend data tables. In the interest of time, I'm going to now pivot to go back to the home screen. And I'm going to now show you our places product, which is our seasonal data set that's disaggregate in nature, meaning that we have the ability to apply filters to the data. And you can also access individual trip categories and data about people making those trips. So we'll go ahead and click New Study. The first thing you'll want to do is define your study name. For this exercise, I'll just call this GNRC Demo. You have nationwide access, so if you're interested in looking at municipalities or counties around the country, you have the ability to do so. But for this exercise, I'm going to go ahead and click. If you click on the state of Tennessee, you'll see it's within our South Central region. We break the nation into 11 what we call mega regions. Next, you'll want to specify your season of interest. If you're interested in a pre-pandemic baseline, you can look at fall 2019. Our most recent data set is fall of 2022. And in the coming months, before the end of the calendar year, we're going to be releasing spring of 2023, which we're really excited about. We'll stick with fall 2022 for this demo. And then, as I mentioned during the presentation, we have data available for a typical weekday, which we model as a Thursday, as well as a typical weekend day, which we model as a Saturday. We'll stick with a Thursday for this exercise. And then we'll go ahead and click Create Study. Now, the power of places is the ability to apply filters, as I mentioned previously. But before we do that, I just want to sort of set the lay of the land for everybody. So on the top of the screen, you'll see our study name. On the top right, you have the ability to share your study. If you click Share and then toggle this link sharing on, you can copy your URL and share this with anybody who has a Replica account, not limited to folks within your organization. If you click the vertical ellipsis next to the share button, you can rename your study. You can duplicate your study, which can be helpful if you have applied a number of filters and you don't want to start from scratch on a new study, or you can delete your study. I mentioned before the question mark icon provides access to our help center, and on the bottom right, the chat icon provides access to our interactive chat. Below that is the filter bar. One way in which you can apply filters is by clicking the plus sign icon, which I'll do now. You'll see that there are a number of filters that are categorized depending on whether you're interested in filters based on trips, people making those trips, or geographic filters. You can also see all of the filters listed alphabetically in the first tab. Examples of types of filters that you can apply include the mode in which the trip is being taken, the trip distance, the trip duration, trip purpose, such as commuting trips, and more. Examples of people filters include age, employment status, household income, auto availability, race and ethnicity, and more. And then geographic filters include things like home location of the people making trips, network links or individual roadway segments, transit routes, trip origin or destination, and more. I will demonstrate how to apply filters in a couple of minutes. If you'd like to learn more about the data set that you are leveraging for your analysis, you can click on this first icon in the filter bar that lists the region, season, and day of the week. And you can click edit, you can click view data source details to learn more, to see what census data sources and other ground truth data sources were used as inputs to this model. Similarly, if you'd like to toggle to a different season or day of the week for your analysis, you can click edit data source, and it brings you back to this window where you can look at different seasons or days of the week. On the left side of the screen is the map layer panel. This is what controls what's displayed on the map. It defaults to showing you trips by origin. You could also look at trips by destination, home location, work or school location, network link volumes, and more, which I'll demonstrate shortly. You can also define what geographic breakdown you'd like to look at, all the way down to block groups in places, all the way up to states. And again, if you've defined any custom geographies, you have the ability to leverage those here. On the top right side of the screen is what we call the study summary. This will dynamically update. It shows the number of trips and trip takers, reflecting any filters that you've applied. And then lastly, on the right side of the screen is you can expand the summary panel by clicking show summaries. You'll see that there are summary metrics related to the trips, as well as the people making those trips. So examples of summary metrics related to the trips include origin destination pairs, trip starting hour, and primary mode. Examples of people, summary metrics related to people include household income, race and ethnicity, home location, and more. For this demo, why don't we take a look at shopping trips destined for Williamson County. So what I'm going to do now is click the plus sign filter, and I'm going to apply a geographic filter, specifically trip destination. Under geo breakdown, I'm going to select counties, since we're interested in Williamson County. And then I'm going to use the search bar to search for Williamson County, Tennessee. I'll click on the map on Williamson County. You'll see that it populates on the left side of the screen. If I accidentally click additional counties, they will also appear on the left side of the screen, and I can X out of them if I didn't intend to select them. So we'll stick with Williamson County and click Save. You'll see that the map has dynamically updated to show the origins of trips that are destined for Williamson County. You'll see that the filter bar now shows that we've applied a trip destination filter. And the study summary on the top of the screen has also updated. I had mentioned that we're interested in looking at shopping trips. We could click the plus sign icon, click trips, and go to trip purpose, and then click shopping. But what I'm going to do instead is show you that you can also apply filters from the summary panel. If you scroll down to trip purpose, you'll see that 19.7% or 185,000 trips that are destined for Williamson County are for the purpose of shopping. If we click on that bar on the histogram and then click filter to one selected, you'll see that the map and the study summary have dynamically updated, as has the data in the summary panel. What I wanted to show you also is that if you're interested in downloading the data that you're displaying on the map, you can do so by clicking download layer data down here. You can download it as either a CSV for work in Excel or other data products, or if you're interested in using GIS, you can download a GeoJSON or shapefile. Finally, if you're interested in looking at the disaggregated data that reflects this 185,000 trips by 123,000 trip takers, you can click the Dataset tab here, and you'll see that in the Trips tab, there's 185,000 rows, one row for every trip that is being made. For the next example, and thank you for starting to put questions in the chat. And thank you, Sean and John, for helping to tackle those. And we'll revisit them as a full group if there's time at the end. For this next example, I wanted to demonstrate a select link analysis along a segment of I-24. So what I'll do is you can either edit filters or remove filters by clicking on the filter bar. So I'm going to remove filters that we've already applied. Now what I'm going to do is click the plus sign icon, click trips, and select the network link filter. I'm now going to use the search bar to search for I-24, and I'll select a location within East Murfreesboro. And then I'm just going to select an individual link. If you were interested in selecting multiple links, you could do so manually, or you could use this polygon lasso tool to draw a polygon around the segments that are of interest. And you'll see that there's a number of links that are selected. I'm going to X out of all of that now, and we'll just select one link for this exercise. A link along I-24 Northwest. So currently what we're visualizing on the map is where the trips originating that used that network link along I-24 Northwest. We could toggle this to look at where are the trips ending, which makes a lot of sense since we looked at a link along Northwest I-24 that the destinations are in the Nashville area, whereas the origins were down in Murfreesboro and further southeast. One thing that I wanted to show the distinction between is you could look at trips by origin, trips by destination, but you could also look at where did the travelers live if you select by home location. Now you'll see that the people who travel along that link on I-24 live all over the region. So it's not limited to northwest of the link or southeast of the link where the trip origins and destinations were located. So I just wanted to point out the distinction between looking at by home location or, for instance, by work location. I just selected by work or school location. And versus trips by origin and trips by destination. And again, you can download all this data by clicking download layer data right here. What I wanted to show now is quickly if we change the map layer data to be network link volumes, I'll zoom in a bit, and then I'm going to click update network link volumes on the left side of the screen here. This is going to display, if I hover over the information icon right here on the bottom left, you'll see that this displays the 20,000 highest volume links in your current viewport and zoom level at the time of querying. If you're interested in more data than just the top 20,000, you can click download layer data, and you'll see that this includes the top 100,000 links in the entire mega region, sorted by highest volumes and inclusive of applied filters. But you can see that links that are shown in yellow have a greater number of trips than those shown in red and burgundy. If we take a look at the summary panel, we can see the origin destination pairs of where these trips start and end that used that link along I-24. You can see the distribution of trip start times when the morning and evening peak was. And you can see the mode split. One thing that's interesting, or maybe not interesting, maybe it's just apparent, is that you can see there are no walking or biking trips along this segment of the roadway network. And that's probably unsurprising. What if we looked at a different stretch of roadway, such as the Broadway Bridge in Nashville, which I understand is currently closed beginning July 7th until September 7th. And during that 8-week period, the bridge is going to be totally replaced. I previously created a places study that selected those network links. I'll just quickly show you. If I zoom in, you'll see that I've selected the portion of Broadway over the railroad tracks. And you can see if I scroll up to the primary mode module, you'll see that now about 1% of trips are made by either walking or biking along this roadway segment. You can also take a look at the distribution of trip purposes. It looks like almost 30% of all trips are headed home, and the next most common category is work. If you scroll down, you can see other trip characteristics such as trip distance and trip duration, such as the average trip distance is 14.5 miles, and the average duration is almost 30 minutes. So, and again, we're displaying network link volumes here, but what you could do is look at where are these trips originating, where are these trips ending, and more. One final example I wanted to share was if we take a look at active mode share in downtown Nashville. If we take, for example, a census tract that includes the Broadway Bridge, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this study just to show you how it's done. So I'm going to hit duplicate, and you'll see now that there's a copy of this study. What I'm going to do is remove that filter that I previously applied. I'm going to select a trip destination filter, similar to what we did before, but now instead of looking at a county, I'm going to select an individual census tract. And we'll search for Broadway in Nashville. So I'll go ahead and click this census tract, which is now populated on the left side of the screen. I'll click Save. If we look at trip destinations, or excuse me, trip origins at the block group scale, you'll see I'll zoom out, and they're coming from all over the region, which is perhaps unsurprising given that Nashville is such a regional attractor. If we take a look at the mode split, we can see that trips that are destined for that census tract include more than 14,000 trips are by walking, and about 600 trips are by biking. If we take a look at just those trips that are made by walking and biking, I'll click Filter to Selected. You'll quickly see, and if I toggle this to be trips per square mile instead of total trips, you'll see that the trip origins are much more tightly clustered around downtown Nashville. If we click the People tab of the summary panel, we could go ahead and see what are the socioeconomic and demographic characteristics of the trip takers. For instance, the median household income is about $80,000 for people who are walking and biking, whose trips are destined for that category, destined for that census tract. We can see the distribution of race and ethnicity. We can see the age distribution, the employment status, and the availability of private automobiles at home. For instance, you can see that nearly 7% or 650 people, 650 travelers who are walking or biking, whose trip is destined for that census tract, don't have access to a private auto at home. So I will pause there and say that this was intended to be sort of a high-level overview of the functionality in Replica. What I'd like to do is toggle back in the remaining couple of minutes that we have, toggle back to the presentation and just summarize some next steps. I previously mentioned and provided the link to create your Replica account at studio.replicahq.com. If you're interested in direct database access, again, we'll share this slide deck so you can get access to this form. If you'd like a little bit more of a walkthrough of how to get started, we have helpful documents in our Help Center about how to get started with our weekly trends data and how to get started with our seasonal places data. Max Baker, the greater Max, mentioned previously that if you're interested in scheduling time with me, I'd be more than happy to jump on a call with you to discuss specific projects. And so I'll include a link in my email follow-up that I'll share with you either later today or in the next few days. And then if you have questions, you can join for an upcoming Intro to Replica and Q&A session that will be very similar to what we covered today. But the second half of those sessions is dedicated to Q&A, or you can reach out via the online chat or at support@replicahq.com. So let me pause there. I'll see how we're doing on questions. Thank you, Sean, for answering Eric's question. So while I answer Eric's question, John or Sean, would you mind taking a crack at Jim's question about penetration rate? That would be great. So Eric, depending on what agency you work with, all of the GNRC member jurisdictions, including the 14 counties and the municipalities within those counties, have access to Replica. So so you are able to create a Replica account today at studio.replicahq.com. If you have a consultant that you'd like to request access for, you can reference the you'll see that we have a link that shows all 75 plus companies that have Replica access. And if your company is not listed on this, included in this list, you can request access through this simple form, which again is linked into the slide deck that we'll be sharing with you today. I know we're just at about the end of time. William, great question. One thing that I will quickly point out is that in our online help center, we have what's called quality reports. So actually, let me go back to the main. There's a section called quality reports, and they're organized by region. Tennessee is within the South Central region. So you can click South Central quality reports, and then you can see the different quality reports that we have for different seasons, such as for fall of 2022, you can see the comparison of our data to ground truth data. If you have any and if you have any other concerns or questions about the data, feel free to reach out at any time via chat, the support at email at replicahq.com, or reaching out to me, and I can coordinate outreach to our technical team. So I know that we're just over time, and thank you, Kevin, for your comment. That's great to see. Let me pass it back to Max Baker to see if you'd like to just wrap things up, or how you'd like to formally end the meeting. And thank you so much again for the opportunity to present today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Max. I think that was a very informative presentation. I think we'll probably get a lot of questions as the day goes on and as people start to sit down and actually play with the platform. I think I was amazed with the first week of really investigating everything that Replica HQ has to offer. And I see a lot of questions in the chat box about the reliability and how well the model performs. I will let you know that Harry and I have been investigating and validating the model results against the ground truth data that is provided by TDOT that we use to calibrate and validate our regional travel demand model. And I'll say from our initial findings, it is very, very close to observation. We're hoping to develop a report that we can share with everybody on how well it's doing and maybe where the grain of salt that needs to be taken most is in our region. So we look forward to showing you guys that. Beyond that, I will turn it back to Daniel. I think we have wrapped up the Replica portion of today's workshop.
All right, thank you, Max, and thank you, Replica Max, for the awesome orientation. I'll just close out the meeting by saying our next meeting will be on August 2nd, in person at our offices on Vantage Way. So look forward to seeing you all there. And unless anybody has any additional questions, we'll see you all early in August.